You went extra loud today, Julie.
Yeah.
I have an idea for the bit. Hold on. Yeah, there we go.
yeah.
That was nice.
That was a nice sound.
Let's see if I can do a flat rock again. Oh,
That was good. So I have an idea for the bit. We were still watching the episode when Janine showed up today. And I made him walk away and shut the door so that he wouldn't know what was happening.
Bolt the door.
That's true.
So that we could get a pure, clean, undiluted oh shit. And I'd like to see if we can make that happen now. So just between us, and technically there are 4 of us plus Janine because listener and Patreon patron Katie Vernon. Kirshner. There's a different. Katie Vernon is a publicist. Sorry, Katie Kirshner is hanging out with us today. We did not have enough mics, so she's going to be like old school Janine for a bit.
That's okay.
But Ruth McCormick is here with us.
Hello.
We'll do whatever real intro later. I've already ruined the joke. It's fine. We're doing it anyway. We'll do it live. So
this better be your best oh shit ever.
So I thought between us, we might paint a picture. We might describe what happens in the first 4 minutes of the episode to see
pre-button
what we get from Janine. Does that sound like a decent plan?
Sounds fine to me.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so first we're on the Bruja.
Oh yeah, the Bruja.
Not
Which they
the Bruja.
keep calling like Bruja, and I'm like, this isn't a fucking.
But also, why would you name your ship that?
Well, I mean,
Why would you?
I
name
don't
your shit
know.
the
Let's find
shit
out.
The witch. That's what I
Let's
just
find
said.
out. So, Ian it's a flashback. Ian is being brought aboard, soaking wet and really pissed.
This is after he stole the jewels from the
furious.
island.
Well,
right.
he has the
got a
treasure
trunk.
box in his hands. And he's understandably pissed. You can't take me away from my home. And there's this threatening looking dude, this first like, I don't know, let's just kill him or something. Mm-hmm. And then one thing leads to another. And then he's like, oh, well, never mind. The Bakra likes boys.
Oh God.
Ew.
I was told there would be no boys. No, I was told there would be boys.
I was told that there would be young boys.
Yes.
Is what it was.
Anyway. So they decide they're going to take him with them to Jamaica. Flash forward. Ian is being thrown in a hole, basically.
Yeah.
Like a cave.
Dungeon prison.
Tell the Bakra we're here. She will be very happy to know this. And he thinks he's alone. And then all of a sudden he hears like, what's your name?
And out of the shadows
comes like a decrepit looking little
Oh shit.
motherfucker. It's like another young guy, another young lad who's like, well, I don't know why I gave him a Scotch accent. He's not Scotch, but he had an accent, I think British accent or something. And he's just like, my name is Kevin. Like, I don't know.
I don't remember his name. I don't even think I wrote it down. I remember Abiku's name, which was the silent African that's just like staring around.
We know the other guy isn't Scottish because Ian explains to him that Scotland is far from here.
Yes.
Henry.
Mm-hmm. Henry? Maybe?
It is Henry. Yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Katie.
Henry. Hal. And they start talking about like, the boys, they come in here and then they don't come back.
There were 6 of us, and now there's only
And he
2.
goes, what do you mean there were 6 of you? And then he starts explaining.
Past, there were 6, and now there are 2.
And
then
I'm just going to call him Kevin. And then Kevin is like, well, they go and they see the Bakra. And then the other guy's name is
Abiku.
Abiku.
All
of a sudden is like, I know that word. That's a bad word. I
doesn't speak English, but here's Bakra. Freaks out.
He's like, fuck. And they never come back. And then, lo and behold, someone is like, hey, you with the pretty blonde hair.
Win.
Come with
It's
us.
time.
You got to come see the background. He's like, fuck no, shit. Then he gets shoved into a plantation of some sort. It's a big, pretty pink plantation. It's a rose-colored plantation.
Yeah.
He gets shoved into a lavishly appointed bedchamber.
Oh shit.
Wait, no.
This isn't even it yet.
You hold on to
Just
that
wait.
shit because it is about to get
There's
There's
real,
like 3
Janine.
movies in this all
And
of a
then,
sudden.
Hold on.
Jeez.
A big slave, presumably, a large black man, walks him in and like shoves him on the bed. And then he just leaves. His wide developed that character.
Yeah.
This episode is pretty gross in some ways. I think
Yes.
intentionally so. Anyway, we'll get there. And Ian is just sitting on the bed, and then he's like, "What the fuck?" And you can see that he sees something like
That
in the
we don't
direction
see
of
yet.
the camera.
We don't
He's
see
like,
it yet.
fuck this. And then from the bottom of the frame comes a small, delicate, feminine foot fucking covered in blood.
Just covered.
Like all the way to the knee, leg, just
pretty toes. Red. Yeah.
And then the foot is attached to a person who begins speaking in a Scottish accent.
The bloody leg?
Yep.
Oh,
yes.
Shit.
Like
what am I supposed to do?
Still not it. Literal
Still not it,
bloodbath.
Jenny.
She's bathing in blood.
What
and
the
starts
fuck?
to say some things like, "Don't be alarmed. It's only good blood. It keeps my skin young and pure." And you see her stand up covered in blood.
From the neck down. Her
Just
face
blood
is clear.
flowing
Just
down
like
her body.
and her hair is up. Blonde hair all pinned up. And
Strawberry blonde.
strawberry blonde,
Mm-hmm.
and she's has a beautiful body, just dripping blood all over her body, and she's stretching, and it's very this. And then she glances over her shoulder, and Julie goes, "Oh shit!" Because the bloody foot and the nice backside belong to Gayla Duncan.
Fuck
Cheers! Cheers! Welcome back, bitch! Welcome back! Welcome back with your fucking eyebrows and your amazing forehead.
God
Yeah.
damn.
Her forehead is on full display in this episode.
It's all blood.
And
It is like Renaissance worthy.
your knack for blending dark humor and genuine malice and emotional complexity all into a weird time-traveling stew.
Susan of hotness.
I just Lotte Verbeek.
We love you.
We love you so much.
So much.
We're so happy to see you.
And I didn't even drink from the oh shit. That's how excited I am.
Cheers.
drink
Let's
again
do it
for it.
again.
We'll
Yeah.
try again.
Welcome to Podlander Drunkcast and Outlander Podcast. I'm a very satisfied Allison Shoemaker.
I am Julie Starbird.
Also satisfied.
No, I feel pretty good.
That's Janine.
Hey.
And we have with us Ruth McCormick.
Hello.
Ruth is a friend of ours, friend of the show, watcher of the show, started watching the show because of the podcast.
Because I listened to the first season of the podcast before I figured I should start watching the show.
We're
So now I watch it.
influencers. We're influencers.
we're
Okay.
amazing.
We are taste fucking makers.
We also, I'm going to carefully pick up my microphone, have Katie with us. Say hi, Katie.
Hey.
Yeah, we don't have enough mics, so she's here to eat pizza and listen. And it's going to be fun. And I should say, we are drinking a variety of things. But the thing really worth mentioning, I mean, Empirical Brewery, exploring the science of beer.
Always.
But we are drinking 2 beers from Colorado, brought to us by friend of the show, lovely person, Molly Mullen.
Thanks, Molly.
Thank you, Molly.
I am drinking 90 Shilling
As
Ale
am I.
from
Me too.
Odell Brewing Company.
It's really good and not typically my normal style. I usually don't like browns, but this is a nice toasty. It's good.
Mm-hmm. Katie is drinking Claymore Scotch Ale,
Which is on point.
from Great Divide.
Delicious.
There's some swords on it. There's a tartan. It looks a little bit like the Mackenzie tartan. I'm not gonna lie. I know
It
this.
looks like our logo.
It does look like our logo.
Damn it, they have a Daphne too.
Yeah.
No, technically we have a Daphne because that's just the Fraser tartan that Zach took from somewhere to make our logo.
Right. It's true.
Thanks, Zach.
So
for being our
we're the Daphne.
Oh.
We're the Daphne now.
Oh.
I want everybody listening, if you are hanging out in our Slack channel, if you, as directed, stood up and yelled, nailed it when Gayla Duncan showed up at that ball, I just want you to let me know because I felt a disturbance in the force. And so I think I wasn't the only one to do that. So Julie, which episode are we talking about today?
We are talking about season 3, episode 12, The Bakra,
God.
which we found out means the boss. And also, due to a cursory search onto Urban Dictionary, might mean whipped back.
Back raw. That's
Raw
what Urban Dictionary
back.
said.
Yeah. So we don't know if we believe it, but it totally makes sense in that in this episode, we get to see a lot of slavery shit.
Ooh.
Yes. Janine, it's not awesome.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't think that with one
purpose, obviously.
serious exception, I think it's actually handled very intelligently. It made us uncomfortable in the ways I think it's supposed to
Which
make
it
us
should,
uncomfortable.
right.
They do a great job of that on the show, like paying attention to that.
They
so
do, but there's one moment that we'll get to that was like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Anyway, So this is basically, it's an episode that's like the dueling stories of Claire and Jamie looking for Wien and Galus Duncan
showing back up and making everybody's lives worth living.
Fuck yeah.
But
Jesus Christ.
Also being an evil fucking bitch.
I feel like right now I want to get out of the way. I want to apologize to Gary Young. God, is that his name?
Yeah,
I didn't
it is.
pull up my
It's
IMDb.
Gary Young. Yeah.
And who plays Margaret Campbell?
I
What's
can't
that actress
remember.
name? I'm doing it right now. Anyway, I want to apologize to both of them. I want to apologize to also Coinface shows up.
Coinface is here too.
Everybody's in Jamaica.
It's like the reunion episode.
This is
Yes.
great.
It is like the reunion
so
episode.
this
They
is
all
so
showed up
good.
at the party.
But less sexy than the reunion
my
episode.
God.
Less
Love
sexy,
it.
but maybe more exciting. I don't know.
I
I,
mean,
have high standards.
I gotta be real. It's in the little post credits thing where they talk about the show and whatever.
It's
behind
called
the scenes.
Into the World. I know.
Is that
You
what
know,
it's
like when
called?
I truly believe it's called
They
Into
really
the World.
need to
I
adjust
wrote
the name shit for
no,
that.
I'm sorry. It's
Yeah.
even worse. Inside the World.
That's gross. That's disgusting. This is a family podcast.
Oh, is it? What kind of family is listening to this? I need to meet that family.
But I'm finding it. So Gary Young and Allison Pargeter, and also David Barry, and also Katrina Buffman and Sam Huon. I want to apologize to all of them because there's just no fucking way.
No, I'm sorry.
Like,
you can't
there's-
stand up.
It's not even close. I'm sorry.
It's like when LeBron dunks on somebody. It's like you watch him and you're like, will anybody ever be this good at basketball ever again? And also, who are all these jokers that still say Michael Jordan is the best of all time? Because I am sorry,
Don't
he is
aggravate
not
Kevin Lambert
anymore. He is not. LeBron James is the
We already
best.
put Kevin in a hole.
A different Kevin.
But
I don't know what's happening.
But I understood it deeply.
I want to take one more moment to I want to thank everybody who helped me hide this from Julie for fucking 2.5 years. Thank you so much.
I truly had no idea.
I want to thank.
But I will say that when the bloody foot showed up, I knew it was her. I just
you felt
knew
it in your bones.
honestly,
did.
as you were describing it,
You're a regular Margaret Campbell.
as you were describing
You know
it,
what?
and you put that Scottish accent on that creepy leg, I was like, oh God, she's back.
It's a good story. That's still my favorite Lotte Verbeek. It's a good story.
But it's goat blood, not virgin blood. Are you a
Yeah,
virgin,
it's
Wien?
just goat blood.
Let's do it. Oh, you're not
you
a virgin?
don't-
Then you know what to do. We'll get
That's
there.
what she said.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Oh,
we'll get there.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We
Let's
did
get
get a
going.
nudity alert and no strong sexual content, which, as it turns out, is probably a good thing. We did also get
I
one
thought
long.
that was sexual content.
I mean,
though.
it is, but not strong. It was like mild sexual
That's
content. We also got like a really good long lingering look that was like a prelude to a boning. Like you knew they were looking at each other and they were like, "Oh man, are we ever going to do it later?"
Yeah.
Except for
But
not.
like a mature, we have been through hell and back, and I really just appreciate you as a human being. Put your penis inside me.
Yes, exactly.
It was like that.
It was a nice moment.
Yeah.
It was a nice moment.
We'll
Okay.
get there.
So let's go back to the lavishly appointed bedchamber and pick up where we left off, because Jesus Christ, all I want to do is talk about Lotte Verbeek until I die. Like, I just can't.
And
I
this
just
is all
can't.
before the theme music. Once again, it was a cold open.
Yeah,
there
we
was
had a
no
little-
theme
This is
music.
like,
Yeah.
like
So this season, I guess they've decided this is the way they play now.
yeah.
Julie, I don't
But we could have
suppose.
seen Lotte Verbeek in the credits and then
Yeah,
had
you're
that
right.
reveal.
They couldn't show that.
That's
And
fair.
then-
That's fair. They couldn't have her
Yeah.
name listed. Ruth,
Yes.
you're right
Then you
about
would
Ruth.
Squeeze.
Because then otherwise you're doing Justice League when they show hair. Oh, never mind.
No, that's absolutely not a spoiler. I'm sorry. Henry Cavill has been a part of the entire promotional tour for Justice League. Everybody on the internet that's pissed when they find out that Superman is in this movie.
supposed to be dead?
you guys is Superman in this movie because you've all ruined it for me.
Thank God. Don't go see it. I only went because it was free for me.
I'm not going to tell. I'm not ever going to say, hey, here's what happens in this movie. But I'm sorry. He was on the fucking posters. Like, Henry Cavill was a part of the promotional tour for the fucking movie. You cannot be spoiled if Warner Brothers is like, by the way, Superman's in this movie. I don't know if you knew that. Please buy tickets to our movie. And then everyone's like, nah.
I want to apologize for taking us to Justice League when we have such an awesome episode to
We
talk
really
about.
do.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
So she comes out of the bloodbath.
Oh, but wait. I do need to mention one of my notes.
Okay.
In the hole, in the dungeon where Wien is at first talking to Kevin, and a Biku. They mention the Bakra, and they're both very scared about it.
Can we change Kevin to Tyler?
Okay, Tyler. Tyler and a Biku are both very scared of the Bakra. And I was like, who's this Bakra? Who's the Bakra? It's Elaine Stritch. And I just want to live in a world for 2 seconds where we can imagine that Elaine Stritch is the boss of this plantation. And what would that be like?
Well, she would have a ton of fire ant bites because she'd be walking around in sheer black pantyhose.
She would be.
And a white shirt.
And just a white men's shirt that goes to her knees. She also would have incredible glasses, lots of cigarettes, and a unending supply of Bay's English muffins.
Oh, no.
Do you know my favorite Elaine Stritch anecdote?
Mm-mm.
It's probably an apocryphal story. I'm sorry. You can't mention
Please
this
tell
shit.
it.
It's short.
I will never say no to an Elaine Stritch story.
I think maybe this was in one of her like one woman shows. So maybe it's coming from there. I do not know the source. I've heard the story from like 3 different people because they all know how much I love Elaine Stritch and the other person in the story. So she's at some sort of industry party, and it was when she was first getting her music theater career going and whatever.
So like the late 60s,
Something like that. So she's drinking at this bar. People keep going home. People keep going home. And as it turns out, the last 2 people left at this bar at this party are Elaine Stritch and Judy Garland. What? Oh, I want you to know, literally everybody at the table just went. So they're sitting at the bar, just getting hammered, talking the talk. Elaine Stritch is presumably peeing her sheer black nylons.
Peeing her nylons.
She's getting those streaks, you know what I mean? Right? And suddenly it's, I don't know, 3, 4 in the morning, whatever. It's late. And Judy Garland puts down a drink and she looks over at Elaine and I think Jen Moniz told me this story most recently because I'm hearing it in her voice now. She looks over at Elaine and she goes, Elaine, I don't often say this, but good night. Isn't that wonderful? I like to think that somewhere on Rose Hill Plantation, Gayless Duncan looked over at Whean and was like, Whean, I don't often say this, but good night.
Good night.
Never try to outdrink a Scotsman.
Or never try to outfuck a 17-year-old boy because they can go forever.
That's, well.
With a short recharging period. I'm not speaking from...
What? I've known my husband that long, so.
All right, fair. I mean, like, I did start boning Neil when he was 19, so that's close.
Yeah, spout.
Just saying. Good night.
So anyway, Patty, let's move on.
This episode is going to be the best.
So Gayless, yes, they're scared of whatever. Do you, by the way, I don't suppose you happen to wrote down whatever inaudible shit I screamed when Gayless turned around and arched that eyebrow of hers, did you?
No, you were like, eyebrow, bitch.
I know I said eyebrow bitch a lot.
We had occasion to say eyebrow bitch.
She's got inhuman control of her fucking eyebrows.
Really good at eyebrows.
She's very eye-bacting. Browcting?
No.
Brow-bacting.
Bracting?
Brow-beating.
Bracting.
Brow. I'm going to think on it,
Bracting?
though.
Is it
we are
bracting?
We are actively workshopping this entire episode. We will come up with a name by the
Yeah.
end.
I feel like this is going to be like last week when somehow you guys failed to say the word tonal shift, which I'm never going to forgive you for.
We did.
So if you are out there and you come up with a better, Janine's still laughing. If you come up with a better thing than bracting or browcting or no, I got nothing.
We'll come back to it.
Browmaturgy.
Browmaturgy is pretty fucking tight.
Might have to go. Okay.
Browmaturgy is good.
It's not.
No, I love it. In my heart, I love it. I'm still workshopping, though. It's still in my brain.
What about browformance?
Performance.
Browmaturgy still wins in my heart. I don't know.
She's a
come back.
browspian.
Oh, God. This bit's going on 2 minutes right now.
Okay, fine.
Brow Academy Award-winning actor.
A brownie. A bremmy.
Oh, my God. Anyway, Lotte Verbeek is good.
She's very good. Anyway, she gets out of this bath.
Hashtag skincare goals.
Yes. First of all, I guess it's a handy way to explain away the fact that it hasn't actually been 20 years since Lotte Verbeek last was on this show, right?
Because her bod is not
insane.
20. It's fucking
in the books. First in the books of the
beautiful.
episode. In the books, Gayless is portly.
Oh, yeah.
They have a conversation. First of all, this happens not at the, Galus isn't at the ball. They meet her at her plantation. They hear that Mistress Abernathy sometimes has indentured labor.
You heard that, right?
Are
Abernathy.
you gasping? Because
You
that's
just
what we did when we
Keep
heard that.
keep a little mind check there. I know. Yes.
This is the reunion episode.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Good God.
Well, I mean, that's the prequel,
Yeah.
actually.
So they find out that Mistress Abernathy has indentured labor sometimes. So they go to meet her at her plantation, and Claire is they're standing there waiting for her, and all of a sudden the door opens and she walks in, and they're both like, "Holy fucking shit!" Because this is Galus, and she's portly. And one of the first things she says is, "You kept your garish figure, I see." And Claire does not amazingly. Claire does not say, "Oh, you didn't," because she thinks it, but she doesn't say it. So I think this is a great way to explain away Galus looking exactly the fucking same, but with slightly lighter hair.
Her hair is different.
Yeah, it's lighter.
Mhm.
It's
And the
like
sun all the
lightened
time.
with
Yeah, I
age.
get it.
Yes, and with sun.
Yeah.
And her
Anyway.
forehead is larger.
I think her forehead was probably always that big.
No, it felt a little more Renaissance-y. It felt a little more.
It was a
I'm
beautiful.
turning away from the glory of God painting. Like it was almost like she was shaving it.
It
Maybe
reminded
for
me.
wigs. Maybe for wigs.
Maybe.
I think she probably just has like
A very high forehead.
Yes.
As my niece who has a high forehead calls it, a 5-head.
That
is
on point.
5-head.
So she gets out. She's parading around. She's like, "Oh, by the way, don't worry. It's just ghost blood."
I'm coded in it.
Arabella, no. Nailed
I
it.
don't feel like that's much better.
Yeah, here's
No.
the thing though, like ghost blood is gross, but we're doing snail mucus now, so like, is it better?
I'm sorry. What?
Yeah, snail mucus is like a hot
yeah.
trend in
That's
skincare.
K-beauty.
What?
Korean
Yeah.
beauty.
It keeps you beautiful just putting snail
Snail
slime on your skin.
on your skin. Allison, you know how I feel about this, and it is no bueno.
Yeah, but here's.
I'm okay with snails, but I don't want them crawling on my face.
Yeah,
No
but,
slugs.
but isn't a slug just a snail who lost his house?
A slug is a shameless bitch.
Speaking of shameless bitches, Galus is walking around stark fucking naked, covered in blood, obviously trying to arouse this 15-year-old boy.
Which she easily does.
Yeah.
And he is
Duh.
like
I mean, come
terrified,
on.
but like, why do I have a boner?
I can't
Like
control
that.
my pudge.
Yeah, so
Just a
yeah, just
confusing
like a
boner.
teeny tiny little like fear boner.
Yeah.
So I don't even know what she says because I was just staring like, oh my God, thank you, Jesus. Like I was so excited.
And then a tray comes in and there's food on it. And it's all like sweetmeats and this little spice cake. And it's like, Ian, how do you eat food at a place where you just watched a woman get out of a bath of ghost
like,
blood?
Forget that. Have you never read a story?
Yeah,
like
if Greek mythology rules apply, don't eat those sweets.
yes, or fairyland, and we know they all know about the fairies. Did you live in a den? Like they know about the Scots know they're fairies.
Yeah.
They don't think Claire's a fucking fairy. Although I guess maybe that would actually be whatever. It doesn't you'd eat something if Claire gave it to you, or maybe not. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But he straight goes for it because he's starving.
Well,
Well, yeah.
I mean, he's been eating presumably like Bannocks.
Hard tack.
Like
and then he
hard
takes
Yeah.
one sip of the hot tea and goes, oh, like it's disgusting.
There's a weird taste to it.
Huh.
She goes, "Ooh, it's bad without sugar."
You need to
and
put
she
some sugar
she
in it.
puts some sugar in it,
And
and,
then
then
he
like, and then she licks the fucking sugar
Ow.
spoon, like, sugar.
What the fuck?
And he keeps fucking drinking that shit, which is just proof that men are the inferior sex.
Meanwhile,
That's fair.
Galus has dumped water on herself out of a pitcher. It was very Renaissance painting, like except for instead of washing away, I don't know, her shame, she's washing away goat's blood. She puts on this beautiful yellow robe.
And leaves it like kind of open.
Yeah,
Mhm.
just like mostly open.
She's still performing.
And sits
Yeah.
down
Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sits down and is having a conversation about, oh, by the way, I heard you were found on the Selkies Isle, holding my treasure box. And he's kind of like, well, but I'm not holding your anything right now. Like what?
Why do I have a boner?
I just don't know. Did you? I
Shame
and
boner.
there were only 2 sapphires. There was supposed to be 3 sapphires. And he's like, well, I didn't take it. I just told you I didn't take it. Why do I have a boner? She keeps talking to him and he keeps drinking this tea, and then all of a sudden he's like,
My uncle took it.
literally, there's the hand slap over the mouth and everything.
Just like that.
Just like that. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
And then she finds out that his uncle is James Alexander Malcolm Mackenzie Fraser. And she's just like, oh, really?
Eyebrow.
Yep. What? And then I think I said, eyebrow, bitch. Oh. And
then I think the theme music started. It was somewhere in there.
No, she keeps drinking. He keeps
Oh,
drinking,
that's
and
right,
they were
because
talking
there's
about whatever.
the
And
virgin
then
thing.
he asks her what you do with the boys, and she says, "Well, I have my way with them. Virgins have so much power, and then I have no use for them anymore. But don't worry, it's not such a bad way to go." And he's like, "I'm not a virgin." And he's like, then she says, "Oh, good. So you'll know what to do." Opens her fucking robe. And then she's like crawling around. At one point, she's like poking her foot
We
at his
did
boner.
this monkey toe on his face.
Oh,
like
yeah.
she puts
Oh,
her
God, monkey
foot
toes.
on his face
And it
and
still
like
kinda has
rubs
goat
You can
blood
see a
on
little
it.
goat's
His
blood on it.
face with her toe.
And then she kind of like
Sexually.
crawls like sexually across the bed. And it's like, you want to give me it? And he's like,
You want a piece of her beak?
Buddy,
Yes, you do.
I know. And he sort of crawls toward it. And then things go, It is wild.
Man.
It is
Oh.
fucking great
All before
television.
I forgot
Fucking
about her quote.
Jesus.
Oh, that cake is too dry.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Cake
yeah.
is too dry. So he'll drink more of the witch tea. Oh, also, she says, the tea makes you speak the truth. A witch doctor makes it for me, which I assume means just her doctor because she's a witch. so
And then theme song. And then I wrote brochures.
Oh, yeah.
Brochures.
So Claire and Jamie get back to the island.
Voiceover.
And the
Yeah.
voiceover is saying that Clara has only experienced Jamaica in travel brochures.
Brochures.
So she's imagining tiki drinks with little umbrellas. And instead, her nephew has been enslaved.
Instead, she
by
walks straight up
gays.
into a slave market.
yeah. So
Man.
first they meet an associate of Jared's who's like, I'm really surprised to see you because I don't know who you are. And also, why did you sail a ship in the winter? And also, like, what the, but wait, you brought wine and
We're
booze?
cool. We're
Great,
cool.
It's cool.
Yeah,
Awesome.
we're cool.
Please
I'm
come to
gonna
this
need
party
some of
with
that
me.
wine.
The new governor of Jamaica wants to buy alcohol for his
New governor.
party. And Jamie's like, okay, well, yeah, of course, here's the booze. But
And Claire's like, hey, wait, Ian.
yeah. And he's like, oh, we can't go to this party. We have to find my nephew. And he's like, well, okay, I'll help you however you want. So they start walking through the slave market, talking to people like the Bruja. And then Julie kept going, Bruja, Bruja, Bruja. Trying to find Ian, talking to all of these fucking horrible men selling people for money.
It's pretty gross.
It's awful. And you can see Claire is just having they all seem to be having a hard time with it. At least Claire and Jamie do. But you can see in particular that Claire is finding it extremely difficult. Probably not as difficult as the fucking enslaved people.
in the cages, like the bamboo
We see-
cages with
we
their
see a
arms
woman-
sticking out of them. And
We see a
like,
woman being branded.
No.
It's just the horrors mount. And they find out that the slaves brought in on the Bruja were sold to the governor, right?
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah.
So then he says, okay, I guess we will go to the governor's ball.
Well, no, then he asks if there's any light skin or any fair skinned slaves.
Yes.
In the
Right,
for
because
sale,
he's trying to
looking
find
for
Ian.
young Ian.
Yeah, he's trying to find Ian.
Oh no, I only deal in the savages.
I only
Oh.
sell savages.
They're
Oh,
it's just the
Aaron,
worst.
it was
It was bad.
And
really
then,
awful.
And then
Oh,
Jamie
it gets
looks around.
worse.
Jamie looks
Jeez.
around and is like, wait, where the fuck is my fucking wife? Right? And the answer is about to start a fucking riot in the slave market. Understandably,
Mhm.
but she's a really bad time traveler.
She's
Fucking
very
horrible.
bad at
travel.
this.
She's
So
really
she
bad at this.
sees this man who apparently walks with a limp being auctioned, and there's like bickering about like how much is he actually worth, and the slave auctioneer is saying, oh well, he's virile, great for breeding. It's so terrible.
He can't walk very well, but you can get babies from this one.
And
Oh,
someone in
yeah.
the crowd wants to see proof.
and it
Jesus
says
Christ.
something like, "Oh well, Mistress Abernathy bought herself a big one." This is all coming from Katie, who caught it, and I didn't.
Mhm.
And he didn't produce any jizz worthwhile. There was
Didn't
no
drop any
worthwhile.
balls.
Drop any fools.
Drop any
Ooh, more
fools.
I don't know.
I missed
I
that
don't know if
part.
you know this,
Damn
but sometimes a sire stamps his get.
Ugh.
And yeah. Anyway, so they're debating about whether or not this slave fires blanks, basically, and and Claire is just like very visibly upset. Katrina Buffon does a really great job here. And he reaches under the slave's loincloth to start masturbating him.
Oh my fuck. God.
To prove he can get a hard on, and Claire loses her goddamn mind and starts hitting people with parasols. Wow! With parasols. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, Jamie!
Well, earlier she's like, who was it? Leslie or Hayes? One of them says,
one of the
you should have a
boys.
parasol because then otherwise people will see that you are a respectable woman. She's like, I don't give a fuck if people think I'm respectable or not. These people are horrible.
Yeah.
So,
Then she hits everybody.
yeah.
Yeah.
So she hits
And
people
she
with it.
smacks people with it.
And then Jamie shows up and she's like, fix it. So the way he fixes it is by buying this slave and putting it in her name. So now Claire Fraser is a slave owner. His name is Temeraire. And they have a conversation. First, she and Jamie have a conversation where she's like, we have to free him. And he's like, yeah, but here's the thing. That's not actually that simple. Because if we just freed him, he would just get picked up by somebody else. And if we just kept him, but said he was free and like tore up the paper or whatever, then he'd have no proof that he was actually owned by you. So no, we can't do that. And she's like, well, okay. This really sucks. And it does really suck. And it's very gross and uncomfortable. But hey, we have to go to a party.
Yeah, so let's get dressed.
So they ask Temeraire if he will go with them to the party to talk to the slaves from the Brugia. And thanks, girl. Thanks, girl. And what? And find out what happened to Ian. And he says, so I'm free. And they're like, well,
Soon.
no, but soon. And he's like, cool, great, works for me.
But also
I'll
the
help.
slave receipt exists like for her historian daughter to find in
Yes.
the future.
Ruth, by the way, has not read the books.
I read the first book once like 10 years ago.
Yes. Hold on. Sorry for mouth sounds, but there's a cashew in front of me.
They're rosemary.
They're delicious. Anyway, then they have to get all dolled up for the party because they got to go find Ian.
Ian.
And then now
We also found out right after the conversation with Temeraire, we find out that Galus is the one that paid for Margaret Campbell, the soothsayer, the mentally ill woman who can see the future with her shitty brother, Archie Campbell. That Galus Duncan is the one that paid their passage. So she is the wealthy patron in the West Indies that they were talking about in the episode in which Margaret Campbell was introduced.
Yeah.
So now we know that Margaret and Archie are here as well.
there's a scene where basically they're talking about the reason that Galus is upset is you need all three, and this is like similar in result, but a departure plot-wise from the book. They need all three sapphires for Margaret Campbell to be able to tell a specific prophecy. That's Neil.
Also, can we go back to that conversation with Temeraire for a minute?
Yes, please.
A glass?
Yes.
Or Nass.
I mean, whatever.
So as they're convincing Temeraire, like, okay, we're going to free you, but we can't right now because, like, it's not safe. They also explain that they have to find young Ian because he was taken into slavery just like you,
Which
slightly
was
different.
Which was gross.
And then so they're like, so can you help us? Which, like, he's like, okay, cool. But also they own him. So
I want to, yes, it's gross. I want to make a point, and I don't, God, I would have to go way through my Twitter DMs to try to figure out who sent this. But a listener sent me a message, God, months ago when we were talking about, I think in this case it was Duncan Innes, who may or may not be in the show now, and all of the prisoners of Ardsmuir who were turned into indentured labor. So they went overseas and then were basically, their contract was owned by somebody until it would until a period of time had passed or the owner died or whatever. And in that episode, I said exactly what fucking Jamie says. And this woman, bless her, was like, hey, so that's really shitty and don't think that way. But like in a very kind way, like in a very, and she is absolutely right. So I was especially sensitive to that screw up because I was like, well, actually, no, that's true. Because there is a difference. Yes, somebody basically owns you in a way that you don't have any control over and you don't have any rights. But at the same time, there's an end date and you're white. So no, they're very different things. It's not the enslavement of an entire race of people being brought from their home continent against their will to have no rights and be treated like cattle. You're just somebody with a name and a past who has an expiration date on when you're forced into labor. So made me think about that message again and how Jamie was kind of dumb there in a way that I was also kind of dumb. So I guess
Claire kind of just like accepted it and moved on. But then later he does have the actual question for her as the person from the future. And that comes when they're at the ball when he's like, how much longer does this go on?
Yeah.
And she's like, well, this long for Britain, this long for America. And guess which is longer, Janine?
America.
Fuck yeah. It's the extra bummer mix.
No, actually, when I was in Liverpool, I guess a little closer to a year ago now, we actually went to a slavery museum that they have there, which is actually, it's very depressing. Just to like put that over to color the rest of the description, but it's actually an amazing look at like how the slave trade existed and really owning up to like how Liverpool played a part in it and why it was such a big deal there. And it was one of those things to like look at and then go, man, this fucking thing, if this was anywhere in the States, like that we'd be, I mean, I think we're like 20 years away from something like that existing, which is really upsetting to think about, you know?
The Slavery Museum in Charleston is similarly like very good and extremely depressing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. I haven't been to that one yet.
Humans are garbage.
Yes. Specifically white dudes.
Yeah.
But whatever.
And some white women.
A
lot of white women.
We get to see one. We get to see an extra one.
There were some white ladies in that slave market.
And at the party.
Yeah.
Really into maybe seeing a black dick, which was very gross.
And can we also say that like, well, Lotte Verbeek is really awesome. Galis fucking sucks.
She's the worst.
She's incredibly intelligent and really scary and has a wicked sense of humor, but Galis is just
the worst.
The worst.
I don't know, you guys, like maybe it's just 2017, but I'm like extremely into her kill all men, powerful woman thing.
I'm into her kill all men thing.
I know she's bad, but
I'm into her kill all men thing. I am not into her slave boss thing.
That is all worse in the book. Like way worse in the book. But I can't say anything because we haven't actually spent any time. Like Claire hasn't gone to Rose Hall yet, so I don't know if we'll see that shit.
Okay.
But we will see more of Galus's plantation. I am almost sure. And I will reserve my comments on the way that Galus's slave shit happens in the book for next week.
All right. So
maybe I'll revise my opinion next week.
Probably not.
So their fancy white person carriage pulls up in front of the fancy white governor's ball in Jamaica. And out comes Jamie in his bullshit powdered wig.
I'm sorry, I love that wig.
No, I think Ruth is right. Ruth, talk about your wig thoughts. Like, why?
Well, like the hairline is extremely obvious, but I think it's to show like, hey, did you notice I'm wearing a wig? My hairline is extremely obvious because this is a wig because I can afford a wig.
It's less, it's a wig, and more, hey,
it's a wig.
Yeah.
Isn't that what wigs were back then too?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's what
yes. So it's a status
sense.
symbol. It's more like drawing attention to the fact that it is fake hair on top of your real hair.
That's why judges and stuff shit wear that stuff.
Right, but in this case, it also has a practical purpose because he has to hide his fucking hair because he's like a 7'7" hot Scotsman with red hair.
Yeah.
And he might stand out a little. So now he's just like an 8'7"
guy with a shitty powdered
Frenchman
wig.
and
we almost missed it.
Here's the
no,
thing.
it's coming. It's coming.
Sick burn of the episode.
It happens right here.
In a gayless episode. The sick burn of the episode does not go to gayless.
Nope.
No.
It goes to Etienne Cho.
Indian Joe, man. Good guy.
They're talking about the wig, and
he
Fergus
gets
says,
out of the carriage. Jamie gets out of the carriage, and Fergus is like, "No, who says he looks like a dandy?" It's Marsley.
Oh, well, he asks
Marsley.
a question. He's like, "How do I look like?
I look like a privateer or something like that?"
Mm-hmm. And Marsley's like, "You look like a dandy." And then Fergus is like, "No, he looks like a Frenchman." And then Etienne Cho's like, "Same thing." Sick burn, Etienne Cho.
Oh,
yeah,
great.
thank you.
In case you were wondering, Janine, if the racial insensitivity of pre-colonial, or I guess actually colonial Jamaica, right? It would be colonized at this point. Yeah, because of course, because the governor of the white people on fucking Jamaica fades after the slave market. You would be wrong. And some of it is fucking Jamie. Because Gary Young has this great moment. God, he's really good in this episode. There's a moment where all of us just started crying.
Oh God, he was very good in this episode.
So
I thank the casting lords for this man.
He's so good. I can't wait to see him in more shit.
He's so awesome.
They're walking in, and I don't even know what line comes before it, but somebody says like, "Well, and Etienne Cho is with us. Why?" And he goes, "Oh, he's here as a distraction." And I was like, God damn it. I mean, that's why he brings him in the book, but because the show has done such a better job of coloring in Etienne Cho than the book has, and also calling him by his name and not calling him Mr. Willoughby, it really stands out. And you can see this look on his face where he's like, "Oh,
fuck you,
really?
dude."
Okay, I thought we were pals, but I guess I'm here as a Okay, fine, asshole. But then Jamie gets a moment to like push back against that. They're waiting in line to meet the governor of Jamaica. I wonder who that could be.
But wait. When they first walk in, that's when Claire runs into Archie Campbell. And now we know that Archie and Margaret are here. So this is actually the first time.
No,
we've seen them, but this is when Claire first sees him.
Claire sees them.
Yeah. So Claire knows they're here and now knows that what they were talking about was somebody here, their wealthy patron. She still doesn't know who that is yet.
Yes, but we have seen them already because they have. That is the thing we skipped over. They have a scene with Gayless where they're talking about the sapphires, and Margaret makes some kind of prediction that I didn't hear, and you find out that basically they've been brought there to try to find the. I don't remember the name of the prediction. The blah 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 thing in the book. Blah 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 blah. Something King of Scotland. Shit.
But this, in the moment where Claire talks to Archie Campbell, the camera pans to Margaret against a wall, and then back to Etienne Cho. And Etienne Cho and Margaret have this moment that is very strong, where they look at each other and they have full eye contact. And it's like Margaret kind of recognizes him in some weird way. I don't know. Or like is happy to see him. Like she smiles for the first time we've ever seen her maybe really smile.
Would you say that maybe Dreamweaver played?
No, Dreamweaver did not play.
It's not romantic.
Not that kind of it's not romantic.
It's like almost like kindred spirits. It's like two outsiders.
People being treated like shit by the people in charge of them looking at each other.
Gotcha.
It's very moving.
And it was long and lingering and important, and it comes back later, but it was very impactful. And then they walk in, and then Becky walks up and is like, "Is he real? Is it real?
Is it real?"
Whoa.
Yeah. And this
episode.
She just giggles and giggles and giggles about the talking. It speaks English. Shit like that.
It speaks English.
It's so terrible.
Really bad.
And he says something very graceful. "If all the ladies of Jamaica are like you, then I will have found something, blah, whatever." Blah, blah. And she's just giggling and like titillated, and then just says like, "Oh, it even speaks English." And Jamie, perhaps feeling like a fucking dick for being a fucking dick 3 minutes ago, walks up and says, "May I introduce my friend, my associate," something like that, Mr. Etienne Cho. And then he bows and whatever, but like is like, "Shut it down. Person, not attraction. Person, not attraction." And it's really, really terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And then we sort of cut to Fergus and Marsley, but like parsley, canoodling. They canoodle. And here's where we get the long lingering look.
Oh, wait. Yes, it's Margaret and E.T. and Cho make eye contact. And then he has the moment with E.T. and Cho where he introduces him to that asshole bitch. And then it's and my note is, I love you. I hate slavery. Where Jamie and Claire look at each other lingeringly and kind of hotly, but not in a like, let's go bone right now.
Do you remember how public we used to be?
Right. More like, I appreciate you. You appreciate me. We are middle-aged people who both think this situation is bullshit. And I love you. And it's really like Sam and Kat really like did it.
Yeah, it's a great little moment. Totally wordless.
It's not like a young lust moment. It's like a we've been together for 20 years moment.
It is definitely lustful. But
it is lustful, but like
it's like it sort of evolves into that.
Lust.
Restrained lust.
It's like affection and then an understanding of all the things they've been through and an understanding of all the time they were apart, an understanding of the weird situation they're in, and then this like, but we're totally gonna fuck later. And then she has this little like
and then they're like in line for the governor. And Jamie looks up and
he also says, I hate standing in line.
Like, me and Jamie. I like that.
All people. Come on.
Guess who the governor is, Janine?
My note is Julie threw her notebook at this point, if that helps.
Is it Coinface?
Nailed it.
Listen, you gave me a cast of characters who are being reunioned, and I'm glad to see. I'm there. Yeah. I'm with you.
So at no point in this episode does anybody explicitly say Lord John Grey was and is in love with Jamie, and Jamie has very deep feelings for him that are not romantic, but it is incredibly obvious the entire time.
Pretty obvious.
And that's why I like it so, because you can see, again, Katrina Bafufama, I'm really sorry that Lotte Verbeek is in this episode, although I guess I have picked her 2 weeks in a row, but like, I'm really sorry that Lotte Verbeek is in this episode because she just smoked everybody. Mm-hmm. A lot like she watched a fucking barbecue. A lot of smoke. But you can see, like, she doesn't, like, a sorrow about not understanding the depth of a relationship that she's witnessing. And
Coinface and Jamie.
Yeah, and some, like, I don't know, remorse about having missed all the time. And then some confusion. And then some, like, actual jealousy. And that sort of evolves throughout the episode.
Because at one point, Coinface says to Claire, like, oh, did he tell you? Like everything?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which is a shitty
which
bitch
is a lot.
move.
Which is like a lot of things.
That's kind of a shitty bitch move.
I don't think it's intended to be. I think
it felt shady.
I don't think so because here's the thing. There would be nothing like, there's no like, oh bitch, that is not a thing that exists. Mm-hmm. If people found out he was a sodomite, it would ruin his fucking life and then he'd be killed, right?
It's true.
So there isn't any like, well, he was my man while you were gone. Like, it's not that.
No, I think it's more like, are you cool?
Or did Jamie tell you that I reached out to him and I did these, because he obviously told you all these other things. Yes. He told you about your son, his son. He told you about this. Did he tell you about what I tried, how I feel?
This is why I'm saying I don't think it's a shady bitch move. I think it's like trying to figure out what this strange woman that he met and was unwillingly on her part, but was manipulated by as a child, knows about my personal life.
And he does bring that up in their tete-a-tete scene, which we haven't gotten to yet. Because
it's so good.
We're still in the like, welcome to the governor. Yeah, welcome to the governor. And then
everybody is shocked. Like all of them are just really shocked. And then Jamie and Lord John are both sort of overjoyed, but very overwhelmed. And everyone has so many feelings. And no one is wearing a kilt, so there isn't room for them to go anywhere. Like there's no room. It's not like how you wear your eating pants. Like nobody brought feelings pants, and they're all wearing very constrained clothing.
Stuck in your breeches.
And it's just it's stuck in your breeches. Are so full.
Jamie introduces, it's not E.T. and Cho. Does he introduce, I'm sorry, what is the African's name that they...
Temeraire?
Temeraire. Does he introduce Temeraire at that moment as his manservant?
No, he introduces Claire.
No, he says, I wrote down manservant, not slave. He chose the word manservant.
It says my manservant is off talking to your slaves. And that's after they leave privately. Because he says, why don't we go somewhere and talk privately? And then Lord John is like, I know there are 50 people waiting in line, but do you have any idea what's going on right now? I gotta go.
I gotta go.
Take a hot minute.
And then I wrote down coin face, where's his BFF stone to remind him.
Oh, I wrote sapphire engagement ribbon.
Aww.
It's a really cool little piece of costuming.
It is.
Very sweet.
That's cute.
Basically, it's in the book. Lord John wears a ring that I think has a sapphire in it, or maybe it's a ruby.
I thought the ring was for his
It
love.
is. So this is the connection I'm drawing.
Yeah.
So he's in the book. I'm sorry.
In the book.
Is a man who sort of values having mementos, having things close to him. So the person he lost at Culloden, which he and Jamie sort of bond over when Jamie's talking about losing Claire, and he talks about, I can't remember his name right now. I've had like 7 beers. Not true. I haven't had 7 beers, but I've had a lot of beers. Anyway, Hector. It's Hector.
Hector.
Nice.
Right.
Nice
Nailed
pull.
it, girl.
Thank you.
Nice pull.
So he has kept this ring with a stone in it for
It's a sapphire.
decades, and he wears it to remember him. So it's a really nice connection to something that he would do so that he would always have something related to Jamie close to him. So rather than selling the stone or treating it as evidence or turning it into the crown, he just had it stitched into a ribbon that he could like wear on his coat, not like a necklace or something obvious. So it's like his way of hiding a piece of Jamie close to him. And David Barry does such a good job of being like flustered and embarrassed
When the sapphire's discovered.
Yeah. It's
very sweet.
It's
That does
like a
sound really
really God, David Barry is so fucking good.
He's very good.
There's been
So
some
handsome.
discussion in the Slack. I guess in the Slack sounds like in the books now. I didn't intend that. About whether or not the show is going to bring in any of the supplemental Lord John material, because there are a bunch of like, this isn't a spoiler because it's just like they're titles of books. So I'm sorry. Lord John Grey is not going to die next week because he's a major character and has his own like spin-off series from the books and is it's like a really, really great, interesting character.
They might Game of Thrones this. You never know.
No, man.
No, I'm excited to read those supplemental books.
No, I think Lord John is here to stay. So we have the meeting where they see each other and they talk, and then they go talk privately.
They talk about Willie. Willie is coming in a couple of months.
He's not there right now, but Willie is still alive and cool and probably like a preteen now.
And he's an equestrian.
Oh,
He'll
he
be
does
here
like to ride a
this
horse.
summer.
He still remembers you
Yeah.
sometimes.
Oh, which was also a little shady.
I don't think so.
I know he didn't mean it
Again, I
on
think
purpose, but it
honest.
was just like, oh.
There's a difference between shade and hard truth. I think this is hard truth.
But it
Honest
obviously
shade.
hurt Jamie.
Yes. And he says as long as he's happy.
Yeah.
Right. And then we see, I'm sure that something happened in between here. My note taking was very sporadic in this episode because I was too excited most of the time. We see Margaret in the governor's garden of the house, Margaret Campbell, and she's sad and like just kind of despondent. And then E.T. and Cho sees her and goes and talks to her. And it is a beautiful scene.
They exchange maybe 3 sentences. It's basically,
But it's so great.
your
So
brother
sweet.
mistreats you, and he holds out his hand and she takes it, and he says something to her in Chinese, and she says, what does that mean?
A flower from heaven.
She says, "You're a rare soul." And he
Oh, yeah.
says,
You're a rare
You're
soul.
rarer still.
You're rarer still.
It's really nice.
And it's not like, I feel like I need to say again, it's not romantic.
No.
It's
not.
like
It's-
beyond romance.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like
It's kinship.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kinship.
kinship.
It is. It's kinship.
We all
Yeah.
just like 2 very lonely people being taken advantage of and ostracized. And it was a really again, like totally not in the book. None of this is in the book. The stuff that happens, that, you know what, this isn't even spoilers because there's no way it would happen now. Well, I guess some of it I can't say. Nope, because it might happen next week. I guess there's a chance. God damn it. Spoiler section. No, not even spoiler section. Whatever. There's a murder at the party in the book.
Okay.
And that is the plot that Etienne Cho gets all wrapped up in is there's a murder at the party of essentially like a Becky. Although in that case, not actually this woman's fault. She's like, they call her the Merry Widow of Kingston. And it's just a woman who likes to get laid. And like, I just, you know, can I just say the world is fucking garbage. Yeah. Anyway.
I am not mad about it.
I read this really, oh God, this is, I'm just going for it. I'm sorry. And this is going to be a long episode. I promise I'm not just going to ramble all the time. I read this really interesting thing on Twitter. Twitter can bite my balls. Janine is showing me 55 minutes right now, but I'm going for it. About how, yes, it's like a commonplace thing for us all to now talk about how Baby It's Cold Outside is super duper rapey. Oh, yeah. But it's actually more interesting than that because, of course, like roofing somebody's drink wasn't a thing back then. We hear it as being super rapey and like peer pressury and whatever in our current, in like the modern contemporary context. And of course, that's not what a lot of that stuff meant. I mean, it's still weird, but it's not a lot of that stuff meant. And actually what makes it really sad and strange in its current or in its original context is that the song is basically about a woman
who wants to get laid,
trying to find an excuse that will allow her to just stay and have sex with a dude she loves without being ostracized by her entire community. So he keeps trying to invent reasons that she should have to stay, which is why the like kicker of a lyric is at least that I can say that I tried, right? Yeah. Like I tried, like my mom will talk, my sister will talk, my aunt, my maiden aunts, Mighty Vicious, I think that's what it is. So when she says, say what's in this drink, that used to be a joke that people would say like, oh my, this has gone straight to my head. What's in this? And the answer is orange juice
or booze.
No, like orange juice. Like what's in this coffee? Coffee, right? No, I think there must be something else in here. My judgment is really altered, right? Because they would have to find excuses to. Anyway, what I'm saying is the world is a garbage fire.
It still sucks.
It still sucks. Well, it's funny because it sucks in either context.
It sucks in a different way.
So actually, historically, Baby It's Cold Outside is a liberated woman trying to find a way to be liberated and not a creepy dude trying to find a way to date rape somebody.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
Still
anyway,
societal pressures.
So they're at this party and poor Margaret Campbell is sad and alone.
I have 2 notes here.
Yeah.
Claire's gray hair looks great.
Oh, it does.
Super nice.
Hey, speaking of good wigs, so this is why I know for sure that the wigs are supposed to look bad because they would never put Lotte Verbeek in a wig without a lace front. Oh, yeah. Galis is at this party.
Oh, yeah.
We're getting there.
I can't wait.
But Claire, that is definitely a wig. Katrina from our phone, or maybe there's a fall involved. I don't know. They made it like
great bangs
built on her real hair, but it's
And she has this like beautiful orchid pinned in there.
Yep.
Because they're in Jamaica.
And then they have the scene of Coin Face versus Claire, where they have their like scene.
Yeah.
Where they're trying to be civil to each other, and they are, but Coin Face is kind of like.
Coinface has something in common with Jenny, which is that he thinks it's really fucking weird that Jamie's wife disappeared for 20 years.
For sure.
That's a reasonable.
To be fair, it's pretty weird.
It's kind of reasonable.
Claire has a pretty fair thing to feel weird about too, in that this man is very visibly in love with her husband, which is a weird thing. Like that's a weird situation to be in. So they have this uncomfortable conversation where
just the 2 of them.
Where they're talking about, they both remember him breaking.
Yes,
they both remember Jamie. Guys, I'm really trying to move the episode. Where they both remember Jamie breaking John's arm and Claire having to set it and all of this shit. And it's like getting somewhere interesting, not harmonious, but interesting. And all of a sudden Claire goes, I'm sorry, you have to excuse me. I've seen a ghost.
I've just seen a ghost, and that ghost is Lotte Verbeek's hairline.
What I wrote in all caps is Galis fucking Duncan.
She walks into the party in a wig that is awful, but her dress is hot. And Claire sees her and almost throws up in her mouth a little bit.
Can I tell you, we have now reached what I think is my favorite line of the season so far. It's those coats. It's I'm going to a fucking barbecue. It's I closed my eyes and thought of England. I know that some of these lines are from the same season, but still, they're great fucking lines. Claire goes chasing after Galis and she's like looking around like, where'd you go? Where'd you go? And all of a sudden she hears this voice from behind her in these like teeny little, probably red shoes descending these steps. And I don't know if they're red because they're covered in blood or they're just her cool red shoes, but they're definitely red. And she goes, of all the gin joints in all the world.
Oh, it's so good.
She straight just quotes Casablanca to her.
It's magical. And then they basically have a catch-up conversation.
That's
Ruth was like, I have questions. I have so many questions about how it is Galus is still alive. And Galus is like, well, that's convenient, Ruth, that you have these questions because I have answers. And basically,
Ruth, what were your questions that were then destroyed by answers?
Galissa explains it all.
She explains it all.
Oh my God.
Wait a second. And there's a Ferguson in that too.
Huh?
Ferguson that. There's a Ferguson in that show. Isn't
And Clarissa explains it all?
Yeah.
Is there?
Yeah.
Does he have a wooden hand? Is he French?
But he's a ginger.
When this show was on.
Yeah.
So I should
But like when we last saw Galus
I'm singing
in this timeline, she was like being crowd surfed out of the witch trial pregnant with the devil's spawn and just like really leaning into that.
To be specific, Ruth, she was going to a fucking barbecue.
She was going to a fucking barbecue of
Where the
her own
meat
flesh.
was long pig, Galus style.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So what she explains to us is that because she was with child, she was spared the pyre.
Well,
until
spared.
Yeah.
They threw.
Well,
Sorry, guys.
until the baby was born, she and the wee ratling, finger quotes.
Yeah.
She said that though.
Yeah, the wee ratling is how she described her child.
They threw her in the fucking hole for 3 months until she was ready to pop, is what we're saying. They kept her alive
Until
so
I
that
had
she
my
could give
pains.
birth.
Yeah, because the child was an innocent. So the child didn't have to be burned.
Okay.
Although it may or may not have been the devil's spawn. Debatable.
I mean, she used that in the witch
That
trial.
that just depends how you feel about Dougal.
yeah, fair.
Also, it depends on whether or not you believe women, and obviously they didn't.
No.
And she's not a particularly
Guys, I was just making a joke
woman,
about
yeah.
whether or not Dougal was the devil. That's all it was.
Good. It's fine.
Yeah.
So, she was spared the pyre until her time came. Then she gave birth in the fiscal's house, in the bedroom in the fiscal's house. And then they were just going to basically throw her like right out the window onto the bonfire.
Just like, you're done.
But Dougal showed up, and then presumably she like grabbed his dick or something, because she says you can lead them by the cock.
The baby came out warm as his father's balls. I need that to be quoted.
Yeah.
Quoted.
Yeah.
Warm as his father's balls.
You can lead them by the.
You can lead them anywhere by the cock for a while. I wrote this down.
And then
it was important.
you give them a child, and you have them by the balls, basically. And she also then uses the word cunt, the most powerful thing in the world, a cunt.
Mm-hmm. Why are men
Going in
such
or coming
fools?
out.
Also was the quote.
Getting it on a t-shirt.
Why are men such
2017.
fools?
So he basically
Bribed the guards.
Found a stiff.
Yeah, like
dead body.
a different lady that died a few days before.
Granny McConvenient deceased.
Yeah. And they were like, oh, here's her body. Here it is.
And
Phyllis Duncan's dead body.
And she was like, oh, she went up like a match. I don't know. She went up like something. And Claire's like, wait, you were there? And she's like, how many people get to see their own funeral, let alone their own execution? Of course I was there. Do you think I would have missed that? Shit, I brought popcorn. I mixed Reese's in because that's what any well-thinking person does
absolutely.
when they have popcorn.
Yeah,
I had an overpriced theater soda. My seat went up because it was one of those pricey theaters, and then a person brought me a cocktail.
We're in our Reese's Pieces timeline yet, though.
Don't care.
It should be.
So then he smuggled her to France, where she hung out until he died at the Battle of Culloden.
Quote unquote. That's how he died, even though we know that Jamie stabbed his ass.
Dear Claire, whatever you do, don't fucking tell Galus how Dougal died. Love everyone who isn't a terrible time traveler.
Yeah, love everyone who knows the
It was
truth.
Culloden adjacent.
It was right there. It was right there.
Yeah.
So,
And then
they have their catch up.
How did you get to Jamaica? Well, I married someone drowning in sugar money.
Sugar money.
Galus, dude.
And then I came to Jamaica, which is not good for an Englishman's constitution.
Just a bad climate.
Any little thing will carry them off, i.e. this little thing in these tiny red shoes poison that asshole's ass.
If you poison the shit out of them, they just die.
You can see on Claire's face that she's like, oh, Jesus Christ, you're still murdering your husbands, aren't you? Oh, this is really bad.
I love her so much.
I love her too.
I hope my boyfriend doesn't listen to this.
It's like she recognized okay, so that turned out to be a theme.
Galis is just trying to be a woman in a man's world. Mm-hmm. She's just trying to live with a lot of money.
I want to remind you, I'm just going to say 4 words.
She's a murderer.
She's
a murderer.
Of goat's blood. Come on.
I mean, that's dramatic, though.
Some of her crackers are a little overly toasted.
Yeah.
She just, some of those popcorn kernels are unpopped and they're covered in melty Reese's Pieces. It's not, she's just,
and then what was the thing where Claire told her something and Galis had a quote from Katie that I wrote down, the fakest of gasps.
I wrote gasp.
She talks about how Ian, she's like, Ian might have been taken as a slave or an indentured servant. She goes, like so overly exaggerated, like, how could you even say that?
Right, because she knew he was Jamie's nephew. So she already knew he existed. So right. So she did the no.
It was wonderful. I'm sorry.
It was very good.
It was very good. It was high fucking drag. It was like Blanche on the Golden Girls is what it felt like. It was wonderful. Anyway, she's like, I will introduce you to whoever. I will let you know.
How can I help? How can I help? Which is what she says.
Yeah, well, and then when Claire's like, oh, cool, thanks, she goes, oh, well, what are friends for?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, and then also she says something about her necklace. So this is fun because this is a straight from the book pull. So she's wearing a little black coral fish.
Claire is wearing it looks like freshwater pearl bolo that is clasped together with a piece of black coral,
which is shaped like a fish.
Mm-hmm.
In the book, I think it's a ribbon. She puts it on a ribbon. Anyway, Jamie finds her this bauble, and she says, "Let's go find your wee fox cub. Maybe it'll have a bauble for me too." And sure as shit, they end up introducing. Claire strolls over with Galis, and she gives Jamie this look that's like, "Don't freak out. Don't freak out. Look who's behind me, but keep it together, bitch. Stay together. Be cool. Be cool. Just be cool." And he's like, oh, wait, I forgot. I'm the best liar on this show. Never mind. I'm fine.
I'm cool. But then he steps aside and there's Coinface with a big fucking blue stone hanging off his wang. And guess who's thirsty for a blue stone right now? The most evil, baddest bitch.
Oh, no, Coinface.
She looks right down and she sees it and she's like,
Coinface, no.
Where did you get that? And you can just see the... Galis is going to kill him. Like, it's just boo, boo, boo in her eyes. She's ready. And then she...
This is what's in her eyes. I've been preparing my whole life for this moment.
Yeah.
Mom spaghetti.
All this.
Yes. Yeah, mom
spaghetti. I bow to you.
So she decides to put together a big Russ, as Neil and I call her ruse, of getting all these idiots at the colonial party together.
About the loser joke.
It was only so many times. I mean, it was funny.
Rooms are sweaty. Arms are heavy. Vomit on his winter already. Mom spaghetti is nervous, but on the surface he looks calm and ready to drop bombs. But he keeps on forgetting what he wrote down. The whole crowd goes flat. He opens his mouth with the word "talk about." It's joking now. Everybody's joking now. The clock's run out. Time's up.
Gosh, you know this very
I'm from Michigan, bitch. And she knows that this is her hometown boy.
Oh, shit.
No, I'm not from Detroit, but still.
Close
state
enough.
boy.
Oh, God.
Snap back to reality. Oh, there goes the
but he knows. He's so mad, but he don't.
We just figured another song for our album.
Well, we gotta get to the chorus. You better lose yourself in the moment. The movement the moment you own it, you better never let it go. No. You only get one shot. Do not miss your chance to blow. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime.
Jesus. Mary Joseph.
Oh God. Mom, you know I love you, but this trailer's got to go. I cannot grow old and say this.
Oh God.
No, I just...
Oh.
I'm Slim Shady. Just imitating. So that I Slim Shady, please stand up. Please stand up.
Oh, you did this.
Yeah, you started it.
I have to pee. Let's play Yak and Sex.
Okay. Let's do it. There was some concern about how it is we get back from that. And here's how. I'm friends with the monsters in silence under my bed. Get along with the voices inside of my head. You're trying to save me. Stop holding your breath. And you think I'm crazy. Yeah, you think I'm crazy. No, nobody.
Guys, I took her lift up here and she was listening to like 2005 Miley Cyrus. And not Miley Cyrus, but Hannah Montana.
Oh boy.
It was the best. It was fine. I was fine with it.
No, I got nothing. I will say that was inspired.
That was so good.
And I will also say, as the other person that has done that song at karaoke besides Allison, Eminem breathes like a squid.
It's crazy. It's really, really hard.
How does he breathe?
Julie and I have this collection in our heads of songs that you should never do at karaoke because they're way harder than they actually seem. Mm-hmm. One of them, by the way, is fucking Born This Way by Lady Gaga. Don't ever do that song at karaoke. It's longer than you think it is. Mm-hmm. Her lines are longer than you think they are. Mm-hmm. And doing... what is the Express Yourself, which is the Madonna song that's so similar. Madonna. And it's much easier. I thought I was being so clever and I was going to do both of them back to back, but and Express Yourself is 10 times easier than Born This Way. Mm-hmm. Eminem is another one. Also, don't ever do Scream by Michael and Janet Jackson. Jesus Christ.
No, that one's really tough.
No, it's a nightmare.
Yeah. It's so hard. And in fact, I did it once with my friend Josh Davis and we were wasted. And then like a year and a half later, we were like 2
minutes into it, we were all there and Allison and Josh looked at each other like, with microphones in hand, we made a terrible mistake.
Because we had done it and forgotten about it. So we decided to do it again. And then halfway through, we both went like, burr, and looked at each other and we're like, oh shit, how did we make this mistake again?
Alcohol. The answer is alcohol.
Yes.
Always.
Once I tried to do a Madonna song at karaoke and Allison very gently told me to have some respect. I did not do a good job. You were correct.
What did I tell you?
What song was it?
I think it was probably Papa Don't Preach, but I just did a really bad job.
I would never tell you that.
It was very like gentle and kind, but it was like you don't have the range, which is true.
Snap, bitch. Oh, we thought Lotte Verbeek was the asshole.
The look on your face is like, how could I?
No, when you said it was very nice. I'm sorry, I made this a whole thing. When you said it was very nice and very gentle. And it was also very accurate.
No, but everybody can do any song at karaoke.
I did a bad job.
That's the whole point of karaoke, though. You do the bad job, and yet you live.
You own it. Julie taught me this. You own it. You have to own it. Mm-hmm. You just don't do things that are going to make you personally miserable. That's why you don't do Scream by Michael and Janet Jackson. Because you're going to get it. And then you just know you've total mistake.
That's why someone needs to remind you My Sharona has a 6-minute guitar.
Oh my God. Don't do that shit. For everybody else, don't do anything with a giant instrumental break. Just don't. Unless you're Julie, in which case you basically just do stand up.
Also, that's the only thing to do.
Don't do anything longer than 5 minutes, you guys. Just don't. Nobody cares.
Guys, I'm putting a pin in this because this is going to be our anyway, Patty.
Okay. All right. Okay, we're moving on. We're moving on.
Nailed it. I was trying really hard. I was thinking, like, what are we going to do for this anyway, Patty? Now I got it. I'm moving on.
So Lotte Verbeek just saw the sapphire.
So yeah, and she straight up grabs it.
It's like she just looks down, sees it in his pocket and just grabs it.
Goes,
like, I don't know you, but I'm going to touch you very intimately right now.
Is it like a weird waist level pocket?
Oh, yeah.
And she's just like, ooh, grab.
And
like
he's like,
asshole.
a dear friend gave it to me. Yoink. And yanks it back. And Jamie's like, a prisoner gave it to you. And Lord John is like, I usually leave that detail out because we're friends now.
Because that doesn't fit in with my romantic notion of how much I like. Anyway, Patty.
Anyway, Gales is like, excuse me, I gotta go. And she runs away. And Lord John goes, she's a bit strange.
Yes, she's a touch strange. It's very British. And it's quite tempting.
Claire basically says, you have no idea. And then there's like an American, there's like a How I Met Your Mother laugh. If there had been a laugh track in that moment, it would have been perfect. It's like, oh, her.
And then Lotte Verbeek, I'm sorry, Galis Duncan, has to figure out how to work this back to her advantage. So she's like, Archie Campbell, I'm going to need your sister to tell people's fortunes right now because I am going to get that governor over there and I am going to fuck with him. And Archie Campbell is like, I can't do this. And she's like, I am paying you. You will do it. So he forces his sister to put on a show.
They have a little exchange where she says, I don't want to do this. I can tell this will lead to death. And he says, oh, so you're fine telling the fortunes of the black slaves, but you won't do it for our paying customers. And then you can see Etienne Cho like in the crowd and he looks so sad and it's just terrible.
Right.
But Galis is basically like, listen, I'm paying you monkeys to perform. You're performing monkeys, so fucking perform, monkeys.
Okay, Margaret, sit down and just let your mental illness go free.
Mm-hmm. And so she starts telling fortunes for people. I do think that the show is confirming that she has some kind of gift because we skipped over when she's telling the fortune of one of the enslaved men on the plantation, all in wigs. That's, by the way, that's the line that we skipped. Oh no, you said it when Jamie asks how much longer this is going to go on, and she says 70 years in the colony.
For Britain, 100 years in America.
Yeah. Anyway, we see her telling the fortune of one of these guys.
500 years or whatever.
In the couple of words you catch her like, and then on that day you will break from the chains and whatever. So presumably she's seeing into the future of this slave. An ancestor. Yeah. So she's seeing, like, genuinely seeing in the future. I really do think that we are meant to believe that Margaret Campbell honestly has a gift.
Break the bonds.
Yes. So she's telling fortunes for these people.
May I also put a pin in this for supplemental anyway, Patty, about a woman in a trailer park in Arkansas that has this gift that I know about.
Okay.
I will need to know about this later.
Giant pin. Giant pin.
Okay. So she's telling these fortunes, and then at one point Galis is like, Governor, why don't we have you? It's a wee trifle of a pastime, whatever. And he's like, yep, seems weird.
Not going to do this. Not going to do it.
Yeah. I have secrets. To entertain my guests.
Yeah, busy entertaining my guests. Don't want to sit down and no, I have things that people know. No.
Yeah.
I should say, I think David Barry does a great job of making it clear that John Gray is performing, right? Like, she says something to him, person to person, and he says, oh, well, I have to entertain my guests, and turns around and sweeps his arms out and is, like, speaking in a stage voice and is obviously making a show of it. And then she says, oh, we won't mind, will ya? And is, like, one step away from getting them to go, Governor, 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 Governor.
Oh, God, high school.
So then he sits down, and Galis comes over and is like, and puts the 2 sapphires into Margaret's hand and says she has to hold these, and when she gets the third one, she'll be able to tell this prophecy of when a Scottish king will come. I'm assuming one of you wrote this down.
Yep.
Yeah.
I wrote down the important parts of the prophecy.
So Lord John comes and sits down, and Galis says, oh, she'll need something personal of yours. How about
that wee bauble?
And somehow he doesn't say, no, how about this nice, like, necklace?
How about my wig?
Yeah, take my wig. So he hands over the sapphire, and she's holding all 3, and all of a sudden she goes, and her eyes go like, foam.
Yeah.
Real big.
Yeah.
This bitch turned it out. She's very good.
It was like when she did the Abandaway thing to Claire.
Abandaway. So what does she say, Ruth?
So I didn't write down the first part, but it's something about some sort of number of months.
Two 1,200 moons.
Yeah.
Two
1,200 moons. Thank you.
And twice, I think it's twice 1,200 moons.
Twice 1,200 moons.
Between a man's effort and a woman's curse.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the issue is cut down, then will a Scotsman wear the crown?
Mm-hmm. Which I also wrote down. This is some Macbeth shit.
It is some Macbeth shit.
Jesus.
On the nosy.
Yeah. And then she goes, and like takes the sapphires out of her hand and is like back to normal. And he's like, oh, well, that was fun.
Well, that was weird. She's crazy.
I gotta go.
What's my party this is? Everybody drink some more punch. Whatever, it's my party. Who would like a tea cake?
That was what?
More brandy. More what? Piss water? What
No, it was like
brandy?
doo-doo water. It looked like doo-doo water.
dookie
Because
water.
at one point, somebody said, have some champagne and gestured towards the table where there were glasses. Right. Glasses of champagne, but you didn't see the coops.
Yes.
All you saw were the sherry glasses of brandy that looked like doo-doo water. And I was like,
dookie.
champagne does not look like doo-doo water.
Fun
And
fact, the coupe glass is Marie Antoinette's breast. The first coupe glass, Marie Antoinette's breast.
Breast?
Really?
Katie was then like,
That's
wait a minute,
the
that's
mold
actually
shape.
brandy. And I was like,
What?
still looks like
Not
doo-doo
the
water.
flute, the coupe. If you're picturing a flute, it's a real
The
weird coupe.
coupe is the flat one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But
so her boob would go in there.
And
Boob.
Just rest.
The first
Just
coupe.
like,
Just like
gently
over-
rest her nipples
Just-
into
I'm
Into
on
my
overload
scut.
for the
Like,
moment. You should
yeah,
just let me.
Like,
yeah.
You should just let me go.
Exactly it.
I'm just
I'm
gonna turn my volume
I'm
down.
like a beer stein at this point. Like I got jugs.
I'm an oversized margarita glass, just like scooping it.
We're going to Cesar's tonight.
And bizarrely, you wouldn't know it, but I have a salt rim all over.
For me, it's like a boot.
It's like a boot.
It's not like a boot.
No, it's not.
This is also one of my favorite bits. This is so weird.
Well, let's say you got some heavy boobs.
I do have them heavy boobs. So does she.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Dense like dying stars.
Yes.
So
There's
hold on, I
sensible
just
back.
realized where we were.
Jeez. This
So
episode.
Lotte Verbeek, I'm sorry, Kayla Stunkin,
Yeah.
sees Margaret tell this incredibly Macbethian story and is pissed off because she doesn't understand what it is. And she like accosts Archie, the brother, the pimp, and is like, what the fuck was that? I don't understand what that is.
I didn't pay for that.
I didn't pay for that. I paid all this money and I get Benjamin Button. You guys, she said that.
She
Really?
said that.
She did
She
say
said
that.
Benjamin Button.
I also need to tell you guys very briefly the story of my viewing of Benjamin Button.
Mm-hmm.
So Neil and I went to Mexico several years ago for our first international trip. And it was one of the VHSs that was available in our homestay for us to watch. And so we watched the story of Benjamin Button with Brad Pitt.
Nice.
You guys, this movie stinks.
Yes.
I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's one of the
Yes, I
worst
have.
pieces of cinematic filth that
Really?
has ever
I
been
saw it in
perpetrated. It's
theaters.
the worst.
Really?
It's
Yes.
horrible.
That bad?
Yes.
Oh.
Because they emotionally manipulate you into caring, and then at the end, he's a fucking baby. Who gives a shit? This would never
A
happen.
baby with Alzheimer's.
Yeah, but it sucks.
It does.
It's
My mother
just
worked
bad.
at a nursing home for years, and I grew up like with people with Alzheimer's. I did the Alzheimer's walk in Chicago.
Mm.
So yes, a baby with Alzheimer's, not that cute.
No, you know what? Bad look. Bad look.
Yeah.
So we're in Mexico. We watched this movie. I am so mad that it successfully emotionally manipulated me that I
Sure.
run outside of our cabin where we're staying, fully clothed, and threw myself in the pool. Because that's how mad I was at Benjamin Button.
Did you jump in?
I did jump in. And there's a photo of me sopping wet, fully clothed, just staring at the camera with murder in my eyes. And that murder is for Benjamin Button.
Oh God.
I will never be satisfied in that because I can't actually kill a fictional character.
So, Gayless. No, just kidding. Julie in this moment was fucking time travel. Jesus Christ, fucking time. And I was like, no, Juliet, we're talking about the story. It's not the Brad Pitt movie. Galis didn't go to like 2007.
Right. Benjamin Button existed before the movie was made, obviously. The story did.
But I love the idea that somehow Galis found another circle of dick rocks, touched one, put it in a movie theater in the 21st century, watched 3 hours of bullshit, was like, oh, I'm going back.
I'm going back. I gotta leave.
I'm out. We have to go back. We have to go back.
I have seen the future and it is bullshit.
For sure.
I mean, Julie, if that pool would have been a time travel pool, like, you would have done it.
Ugh. I would have gone back to 3 hours before time and looked at Neil and said, no, we can't do this. This is how Skynet starts.
Is that the way to convince him not to do stuff?
And instead I would have been like, let's go swim in the pool or go to the beach and not watch the way that Skynet works its way into our lives.
Anyway, Patty.
Yeah.
So, back to Eminem.
Don't do it.
So this is when the I keep forgetting his name.
Captain Babyface. Are we talking about Captain Babyface?
The African, the guy that Temeraire catches up with them to tell them what he learned.
No, Babyface. Babyface shows up. This is what happened. So Captain Babyface of Plague Ship fame.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah, shows up,
sure.
right? And
what's his name? Captain Leonard.
Yes, in the book, Captain Babyface is slightly more sympathetic because before Claire jumps into the fucking ocean, at one point he's like, "Well, I just want you to know, I regret some things. I know that you know that I know that you know that I know.
I know that you know that I know.
I wrote it in the log, so now it's legal. So now I have to do the thing. But I wish I didn't, and I'm really sorry.
Why don't you just tear that page out and eat it?
I guess you'd be able to tell it's like a legal registered thing. Sure. Anyway, and then she jumps off the boat. And then when she sees him, God, this scene is so good in the book. When she sees him, she's waiting in Lord John's office because of this hubbub at the event. They're interviewing Jamie about some shit.
Margaret?
Because there's a murder. Margaret isn't at the party in the book.
So this is separate. Okay.
An unrelated thing. There's a murder at the party of a character that's not in the show, so it doesn't matter.
I cannot wait to read it.
It's good. So, oh God, I'm spoiling things for you, Katie. It doesn't matter.
Don't worry about
So they're in Lord John's office having a very awkward standoff. Because Claire knows that Jamie bloodied whatever. She can tell Lord John's in love. It's very complicated. And she hears people coming and she looks out the door. Maybe she's getting ready to leave or something. She looks out the door and she sees a whole troop of people in those coats marching toward them. And one of them is Babyface Leonard, no longer wearing captain's regalia. And somebody has very clearly recently beaten the shit out of him. And one assumes that it's because she left and they know about Jamie, and so they think he let her get away intentionally or something. Or maybe just because the captain died and he couldn't save the captain, then a bunch of other people died and the ship showed up at like half strength or whatever. Anyway, he's not the one chasing Jamie down and has obviously suffered a lot because of something that had nothing to do with him. So that makes me a little sad. But then what Claire does, this is total in the books shit, but you won't ever see it. It makes me sad. She's like, fuck. You have to hide me. You have to hide me. And Lord John is like, I don't know what you're talking about. She's like, you don't know me? Don't say my name. Don't say shit about shit. And then she lays down on the couch and puts a handkerchief over her face.
Really? Like fucking Clue?
Like she's passed out.
Like it's the dead guy in the front row.
Like she's passed out. And this is when she gets a new respect for Lord John, because even though this woman is like, fucking hide me! If you care about Jamie, don't hide me! Handkerchief on face, pretends to be unconscious. And then the door opens and he goes, and they walk in and they're like, oh, I didn't realize you had company. He's like, oh, well, one of the ladies is greatly upset by the events of this evening. I gave her a restorative draught of brandy. I think it may have gone straight to her head. So they have this conversation while Claire's pretending to be unconscious and Lord John is just talking about her like she's like some floozy who got too hammered.
Like she's Julia Roberts' still by Magnolia's, like she's not there. Please don't talk about me like I'm not here.
No, like she's passed out.
Yeah.
She's imagine you have a college party and your parents show up and they start scolding you and they're like, what's with that? And then you're like, oh, that's just Charlotte. She had 3 beers and now she's unconscious.
She couldn't hold her liquor.
And then you just have a full voice conversation because there's an unconscious woman on the couch because she just had too much to drink. And it's a really fun, weird, sad scene. The Claire Lord John relationship is one of my very favorite relationships in the books. And they get, and that's not even, I'm not even going to say it with the stuff because I mean it very seriously. It gets really good and complicated and messy and it's amazing. Anyway.
Neil, what's past?
So what were we talking about?
Benjamin Button.
Oh yeah.
Then
Babyface is coming.
Then Babyface comes.
So Babyface comes. So they hightail it out. So Fergus sees Babyface. Is like, oh, we gotta go. So they hightail it out.
It's because Fergus and Marsley rhymes with parsley were in the front yard making out when the British were coming.
I'm talking about all the sex they were having.
Me.
The British were coming, and so were the French.
Oh shit!
Still sounds like a college party, by the way.
And wait, she's like when they're canoodling in the garden, and she's like, "Oh, pinch me, I'm dreaming," and he's like, "You're not dreaming, but can I still pinch you?" And it's very cute.
It's very sweet. I love it.
So they see that shit go down.
Studio by myself.
Fergus runs into the party and is like, psst, 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 the British are coming. And so Claire and Jamie are like, let's cheese it. The cops. And so they run out the back, get into, I don't know, did they say something to Lord John?
No, they just hightail it out.
They're like, peace. They run out the other way when the British come in the front of the party with their enormously tall guns, which are trying to say something. I don't know. Their dicks are hard, whatever. And then
they have really big guns.
Yeah. And
big
then
dicks?
Jamie and Claire escape with
Marsley rhymes with parsley. So they run into Temeraire coming out of the slave quarters or whatever, and he's like, hey, yes, they saw a fair-skinned boy with blonde hair, and he's at Rose Hall with Mistress Abernathy. And Claire's like, that bitch, she lied. Also Abernathy.
Wait a second.
Why am I not freaking out about the last name Abernathy yet?
Well, it's not like it's an incredibly uncommon last name.
Come on, though. It's like her best friend.
Yeah, let's give it an episode. Let's give it an episode.
Give it some space.
In the books, she thinks of it right away. I think there's a lot going on.
Okay, fine.
So
I'm sorry.
It seems
not sorry.
So they jump into the carriage, and Temeraire is like, "Hey, deal, right? You said I help."
No. He gets
right?
in the carriage with them because they let him go in the middle of the jungle.
This is what I'm building up to. So he says, we have a deal. So I get to go free, right? And they're like, well, but we're still in Jamaica. He's like, no. They're freed slaves, live up in the mountains. I want to go to them, right? So I know where to go. Please, can I? Yep, please, yeah. And they're like, okay. So then the carriage stops in the middle of the jungle where there's a big slash on one of the trees. He's like, this is the path. Yeah, no, seriously. Peace out. Bye. And then it goes. And they say, thank you. And he's like, yeah, okay. Bye. And he goes. And as they're getting ready to leave, get back in the carriage, coconut sound. Lord Babyface comes up, Captain Babyface.
Yeah.
And Jamie says, quick, the portraits of the bears.
So he hands Claire the photographs so that he's not
And the portrait of Willie.
With photographs.
Oh, yeah.
Because
he's going to get arrested.
It's not about time travel. It's about protecting because Willie's portrait is in there too.
But also photographs.
Well, yes, but Jamie also probably a bad time traveler.
Right.
He wants them safe.
So here, take these, and then Jamie gets arrested like he always does.
God damn, Jamie.
He gets arrested.
For sure.
Things Jamie is not good at. Not being arrested. Jesus, man. That guy.
And Claire basically looks Captain Babyface in the face and is like, you would be dead if it weren't for me. Like, do you realize you'd be fucking dead in the middle of the fucking ocean? And he's like, sorry, madam, Mistress Jamie Fraser. And then off they go.
How dare you?
This is fucking full on hit my microphone laughing at
and
that.
then blackout. End of episode.
And he tells her to go after
Wait, that was
Ian.
the end?
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck?
Basically, it's
serious.
setting up an early, I don't think final, but an early with no grown-ups around showdown between Claire and Galus. That would be my guess about why this is happening. Because Jamie doesn't get arrested in the books. I'm sorry, in the books.
Like I know we're going like this. We're past 90 minutes at this point, but I just thought we were about halfway through the episode.
No, that's it.
Nope.
Like that's wow.
A lot happened there, but you know what? As someone who in this third season has felt like, as a non-book reader, I understand that this particular book, Voyager, is very thick book with a lot of shit in it. And they have been having to compress a lot of stuff
and they've cut a lot of things.
Sometimes relationships have felt rushed or things have felt weird, like glossed over. This episode did not feel that way to me.
I mean, yes, I'm reading Voyager right now, and I'm only through, up until the fire in the books. In the books. But, I feel that, yes, this episode...
There are 2 fires. This is why I was confused.
Is it the print shop? Is it the print shop?
No, I'm only at the print shop.
Okay.
Fire.
But the last several episodes that I have watched as a non-book reader, just watching the show on the boat and everything, have all felt weirdly
rushed,
super rushed, or Jamie's meeting and establishment of his friendship with Lord John felt a little rushed and pushed. So sure. This season has not been my favorite. This episode is now my favorite episode of the season, and it's not engaging. Just because of Lotte Verbeek.
It's one of the best. There are some other good ones this season, I think, but this is
this one felt
top 3 for sure, maybe the top one.
There was a lot of stuff that happened in it that was very dramatically interesting. There was a lot of really good acting. It just felt more. I know that this is a romance time travel sci-fi novel. I get it. And I know that I don't have to think of verisimilitude or anything like that. But this one felt a little bit more considered.
Substantial?
Yeah, considered in some way. And it wasn't just the horrors of the slave market and that, but it just felt more settled and more interesting. And I don't know if that's because I don't want to be on a boat. Maybe it's that I don't want to be on a boat.
I made this pun once already, but I think prior to this point it was a little at sea. Adrift as it were. It was at sea. Now it's found grounding.
Going to hell. Going to hell.
We should do the scales. Well, I want to know. Yeah, Ruth, what did you think of the episode as a whole?
I liked it. I liked them all. I like them all about the same because, as we've discussed, I watch this show because this podcast exists. So it's it's my story. It's on.
That's very kind. That is very kind, Ruth.
Ruth gave us a little anecdote before we started watching today where she said she was sitting and watching her stories and her boyfriend was in the kitchen cooking and
making us dinner.
And then she heard him going,
That was really nice.
Oh, that's really adorable.
That's really sweet. He's a good man.
He's so normal. I'm in love. Little deep crazy ex-girlfriend cut for y'all. That's Trent. He's so normal. I'm in love. Oh. It's the Trent is getting ready song.
He is
the
not
Trent
normal.
Is getting ready
he really is not.
Okay.
Not normal.
I also really liked this one, but here's the thing. I would have liked this. No, actually, this is positive. I would have liked this one even if it wasn't very good because Lotte fucking Verbeek. She's so fucking good. And I want you to know, all of you, I still personally hold each and every one of you responsible for Agent Carter getting canceled. I want to make this very clear. It's been several years. I've been several years and I still feel this way. So, anyway, Patty. I thought it was, I would have liked it even if it weren't good, but I think it was really good. And
I think it was, and when she showed up, I was like, oh, this is going to be great. But then she wasn't, she was awesome, but she wasn't the reason why this episode was.
She was one of
good.
Several reasons.
Yeah. This episode was just a good episode that she happened to be in.
Yes.
And so she helped it, but she wasn't the cause. It was just the storytelling was better. It was paced better. It was just more engaging. I don't know. It was it was
plus
better.
She got that entrance in which she was in
covered in blood.
Those goats' bloods.
No.
Anyway, let's do some scales.
Red coat.
She was coated in red.
She was coated in red.
There we are.
Let's do some scales. So first, we'll do the doing it scale. So let's see. I'm thinking on a scale of Have any of you watched The Americans?
Oh, I haven't, but it's on my fucking list.
God damn it.
I know all of you.
Okay, so on a scale of...
we're just here to get your shows canceled.
You can still use it.
No, I'm not gonna.
I should watch it.
Yes,
The Americans is amazing. On a scale of...
I'm watching Fortitude right now.
In It's a Wonderful Life, when Jimmy Stewart is trying to get married and nail him.
When he grabs her and he's like, we're going to be together, see?
Yeah.
That can't be the low end, though. That's the high end.
No, because that's the less messed up version. I'm going for the more messed up.
Okay.
Well, I'm thinking of...
I do love that moment,
of
though.
things of people not doing it.
Okay,
So that's the low end, where that's not about sexual tension. That's emotional tension. And then on the high end, we're going to be together, see? Yeah. And the high end, we will do... like season 2, episode maybe 12 of RuPaul's Drag Race. when Carmen and Raja have to lip sync for their lives to Straight Up by Paula Abdul, and they're both naked and rolling around on the floor on top of each other, not fucking.
Yeah.
We'll do that on a scale of...
That's
where
rough.
one is about the emotional tension and the other one is about the physical tension.
But no emotional, well, there's some emotion there,
So
but it's
the
not
middle
the same.
ground would be, because this is obviously not about an emotional connection. This is a terror boner. So where does it fall?
Terror boner.
Oh no! How about I'm sorry, Carmen and Raja. Let's go with the fact that Hannibal Lecter and Clarice Starling have weird sexual tension in Silence of the Lambs.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
That's our 10. Okay, somewhere in there.
Tell me about the screaming of the lambs.
Yes. Okay. So, Julie, where does it fall for you on the doing
Between
it scale?
It's a Wonderful Life and Silence of the Lambs, that's a very wide.
This is a complex scale, by the way.
That might be the widest range. You know what? Thank you, Ferris Bueller. Stay off. That doesn't make sense. No, it totally makes sense. Here's why.
Okay.
There are 2 major relationships that we are treated to that Ferris is the point of. He is best friends with Cameron and his girlfriend Sloane. So there's Cameron and Sloane. Cameron and Sloane have no chemical attraction to each other. They're just friends and attracted to Ferris. I think that Sloane and Ferris's relationship is a high school relationship where they're just hot people who want to do it. But let's dive into Cameron's relationship with Ferris for just a moment. And think about, I think that Cameron is actually in love with Ferris.
So you're going Lord John in this choice.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that Cameron's relationship with Ferris is the main drive of that movie. And it's nothing physical happens, and it's more emotional. Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Cameron and Ferris.
There's a lot of enabling from Cameron too, though. So that's a really interesting choice.
That's a good choice because it's
Man down.
That's the second time Katie has dropped something today. But you know what? I have dropped things like 10 times on this podcast. So.
Mostly her ass. I don't even know what that means. I think that's really good because it's honestly, I was thinking in terms of mild sexual content about that first scene between Galus and Wheon, but actually the sexiest moments in this episode are between Claire and Jamie and then Lord John and Jamie, because that's like obviously a complicated relationship, and for Jamie it's not a romantic one, but that was a very loaded gaze. And with one very loaded gay.
Drinking doo-doo water.
That's not fair. He seemed very sober. Okay, what about you, Ruth?
With the caveat that I've watched like 12 movies in my entire life, I'm going to give this a Jurassic Park.
Interesting.
In that everyone, perhaps this isn't only my own feelings, everyone finds Laura Dern as the lady scientist extremely sexy, but no one does it with her. And the only release is that one dinosaur that sneezes all over those kids.
I love it. You know, I'm really with it. I'm with you. I'm really with it.
Katie has double thumbs up over here.
A woman inherits the earth.
Inherits the earth.
Fuck yeah.
I'm going to go with... Let's see. You know what? I'm going to go with, on an emotional level, let's say, Katharine Hepburn and Cary Grant in the Philadelphia Story with like the longing, lots of longing, right? Longing,
but they also want to beat is the longing. I mean, they were already married.
It's a component, but I have a second part.
Oh.
Right.
Is it Jimmy Stewart and Katharine Hepburn?
No.
Because that's the better.
And on the physical level, I'm going to go with Princess Leia and Jabba the Hutt.
Ew.
Where one is essentially... Yes. No, I'm sorry. This is an excellent comparison.
Yeah.
One of them is essentially a sex slave and is there to be... That's a weird voice to be using for this movie.
Gross. I don't know what to do about
You're
it.
right, but it's extremely gross.
I don't know what it is.
So that would make Galus Duncan the best looking Jabba the Hutt that has ever existed.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a golden pen use just for that. Yeah.
All right. So the next scale would be the costumes scale. So, and we're going with, let's see.
Freaky Friday. Sorry. I just had to go right away because they had to be reused.
The look on your face
I see.
is precious.
I see.
I had to go right away.
So reused costumes. All right. I'll give you a scale, Ruth.
Great.
Let's go on a scale from, let's see. Arsenic and Old Lace. To
Speaking of Cary Grant.
Yes.
Arsenic and Old Lace to Snow White and the Huntsman. Because of the bloodbath. It's a milk bath for not Cameron Diaz. Jesus Christ, get that out of my mouth. Charlize Theron. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so those are your scales. There's the like reused, worn in duds, and then there's the bath.
Again, I've seen like 12 movies in my entire
Also,
life.
It doesn't have to be a movie.
I'm gonna give
references
this
your own.
Could also be television show or book.
I have
You
a
can
reference
reuse
in
Jurassic
mind.
Park
I'm ready.
too.
Video.
Okay.
I wish
She's
it's
ready.
reusing Jurassic
Her
Park.
body is ready.
I'm going to use Broad City for how she purchases a fancy dress, and every single time she has to be fancy, she wears the same dress. Like I'm wearing the same dress right now that I always wear.
Yes.
Yeah, because I appreciate that costumes are reused. And also there's a point, guys, when we looked at Marcelly's back and the seams on her dress matched, and it was nuts.
Ooh, yeah, the first scene and that floral pattern.
The floral pattern just matched.
Yep.
Oh, it was so
A+.
good.
It was very precise. It looked good.
Last one. Oh, I don't know what I'm going to give it. I'm going to give it the Legends of Sleepy Hollow, the Tim Burton one, where Johnny Depp is creepy, but Christina Ricci is amazing and has a lot of forehead. There we go. Nailed it.
Okay. She's a 5-head.
On going to the getting up to have a beer scale, I'm going to go, let's say, a scale of speed to cruise control. To speed.
God, that's a good scale.
Because here's the thing. You don't get up to get a beer during speed.
No, there's a lot going on in the fucking film.
We did get up. Well, at least I got up several times, but we paused it. Like I had to get up to order the pizza. There was
but every time we paused it,
like throw your notebook down.
we would go back.
Right. We did go back several times if we missed something. So I'm going to say it's a non-misser. Like you don't want to miss much.
So it's speed.
It's speed.
It's closer to speed.
It's the top. It's the top of the scale.
Closer to
I don't
speed.
I don't think it's actually speed. I think it's more like
Die Hard 2.
Die Hard 3.
There we go.
Die
Okay.
Hard 3. That looks like one on there.
I also can't give this a full Speed because Speed was the first R-rated movie I ever watched, and I was in third grade, so I didn't have any beers.
Oh my god.
But I would go as much
throwing
as Die Hard, the original Die
Yeah.
Hard.
That's good.
Nice.
You know what? I'm going to go ahead and give it a Jurassic Park since you already
Hey.
brought Jurassic Park in.
Ooh.
I think we're back in business. It's my favorite. That's great. Okay. Last but not least, the Golden Pamplemousse of the week.
I mean, is there
a bund away, 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 a bund away.
Lotte Verbeek, the big Verbeek, we're glad to see you again. Lotte Verbeek, the big Verbeek, thanks for coming again. Ho, 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 wee. You guys, that was was 100% improvised.
I mean, you say that like it wasn't just us saying a joke we always say all the time and you singing over it.
But it was.
It was good. It was
Yeah,
very good.
yeah. It was Lotte Verbeek. Does anyone have any question about that?
No.
Yeah.
Any questions?
No. Part of it.
Lottie S. Pumpkins. Ruth, what about you?
Yeah, it's Lotte Verbeek. That's obvious.
Oh, mine's Sam Hewan.
No.
I know it's not.
He did a really good
Liar.
job.
He
No,
did do a really
it's
good
definitely
job.
Lottie Verbeek. This show is probably going to continue to get overlooked at the Emmys. And honestly, this has not been the strongest of the 3 seasons.
No.
Yeah.
If it really was going to get in there, it probably would have been last year because Faith is maybe the most accomplished hour that the show has produced so far, like in terms of what it actually is. But God, I just liked it. And frankly, if Simon Callow couldn't get a guest actor nod for In Those Coats, then Lottie Verbeek doesn't stand a chance. But I just fucking love her. She was so good. And I might have to change our Facebook wallpaper to be...
Listen, I mean, that makes sense.
we don't have a gayless nickname.
I Fleet Verbeek.
No, it's true. She's actually just
Verbeek
gayless.
on Fleet.
I mean, as close. The only nickname that I can think that she might be is Monkey Vest, because that was something that we said so often when she was
she
there.
never had a nickname.
But
Yeah,
but really, her name
that's
is
not
gayless.
right.
Like that's how we
Yeah.
refer
I
to her.
might just MS Paint that shit and it'll just say browse, bitch. It'll just be- we might have to change it. It's not Duncan LaCroix LaCroix. It doesn't mean you're not still numero uno, but
Isn't it reindeer?
no, that's our event page.
She
Oh, it's our
doesn't
event
have
page.
any more credits post Outlander. Like
We gotta change that.
Yeah.
We're making
he's still
a movie.
I'm writing
the
a film.
boyfriend of the show.
We're
Shot for shot.
We're getting
Okay.
the
The
Kickstarter
Legend
going.
of Curly's Gold.
So this is the
Duncan
point.
LaCroix can be one of the bad
Oh,
guys.
Katie, is your Golden Pale Moose also Lottie Verbeek?
fuck yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Not a surprise.
It's unanimous. So at this point, this is when I have to say thank you to all of you for listening. You can find us on, that's the sound of me opening my computer case. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/PodlanderCast, on Twitter at PodlanderCast. You can also find Julie at Julie Starby. Janine, I almost called you Erin. Janine at Pagel_Erin. Fun fact, today, in addition to hanging out with Katie, we also hung out with listener Helena and several of her friends. Hi, Helena. Thank you for coming to visit. And she brought a couple of her friends, one of whom was named Janine.
Actually named Janine. And Allison and I were both like, wait, your name is really Janine?
And she's like, yeah, that's my name. And you're
That's,
like,
and we're like, oh,
Actually,
weird.
it's spelled differently.
And then she had a fucking great breakdown with Wally at social because they both love the same bar in Jersey City.
It was really fun.
listen, your names are cool.
Yeah.
Janines are cool.
That's
Janines are
true.
cool.
Yeah.
Anyway,
cool.
you can find Janine on Twitter at Pagel_Erin. You can find Ruth McCormick at...
It's Babe Ruth.
It's a really good Twitter handle. And you can find me
It's
at
really good.
Allison Shu. If you want to back us on Patreon, you certainly can. That's at patreon.com/PodlanderDrunkcast. There are all kinds of rewards levels. We also recently met a really big goal in that we're getting $400 a month. This is a huge deal. It means we're going to be able to start saving to travel. It also means probably some new equipment in the future. And also we're going to send some t-shirts and shit like that. So it's amazing. Thank you so much. And to that end, we have to thank all of our patrons, and there are a lot of you, and you're all wonderful. But specifically, we want to thank Jenna Polkowski. First week as a donor. Thank you, Jenna.
Hey,
Rogers
Jenna.
Park
What's up?
resident.
Jenna.
Polkowski.
What's up, Jenna?
Let's not here.
Dr. J, Lori McGuire, Yvonne Kaiser, Ann Gavin, Katie Kirshner, who's sitting directly behind
What
me.
up?
Amanda Newton, Beth Locke, Kelly Sheehan, Jessica Dobrovich, Erin Yutzi.
I think you've already said it right once because she was the one that was like, you said it right.
Like, what up?
Yeah, Yutzi.
Just say it a bunch of times and one of them will be good.
Great. Molly Layton, Heather Moore, Ruth McCormick, Trish McCrary, who's sending us beer from Hawaii.
That's really cool.
Awesome. Aloha,
Kara Marlowe,
bitch.
Catherine Galindo, Kiki the Wise, Flourish Root, Friday Payton, Jen Lander Drunklin, and Kathleen Moniz. Hi, Mom. We also, one more time, want to thank Molly Layton for the wonderful beer this week. It was so tasty and
It was
amazing.
very delicious.
And we want to thank Helena, who brought us around this afternoon. We want to
Yes.
thank Katie for, being a patron like we just said, but also for coming to hang out. We want to thank Ruth, who is our very special guest, who also brought food. We were shoving a pretzel baguette in our faces. What?
Molly Layton?
Molly Layton.
Molly Layton brought us beer?
No, Molly Mullen. Jesus. Molly Layton didn't give us shit except for a Patreon
Thank you,
thing
Molly
every
Layton.
month.
And also, fuck you.
Molly Layton's the best. Molly Mullen brought us beer. Molly Mullen and her incredibly cute dog, who you can follow on Instagram at Denver_Dash.
Well,
don't think I won't.
Denver Dash. He's very cute.
I don't need
and
more
also
pets
Molly
on
is
my
wonderful.
goddamn Instagram. Fuck.
So
Katie and I
please,
are both looking this up on our Instagram right now.
Yeah,
true.
like this moment.
So thank you so much, all of you, for your support. It makes the show possible. If you like what you hear, please leave us a review on iTunes or on Stitcher or on or get on that random
leave a
awesome
review.
feed on
You
Reddit.
know where we're at. Just find us.
And
Just say
because
hi. Come on.
It's really true. We are embarrassingly happy
Awesome.
about whenever you praise us.
That was
Thank you,
Katie,
Katie.
guys.
Thanks, Katie.
Whenever we get praise, we grow 3 sizes. So soon we will be
By the way,
Godzilla sized.
So our hearts grow 3 sizes.
No.
Godzilla
I am actually.
Your boners grow.
Yes.
Sizes.
Soon I will have a fully grown, rock hard penis.
Guys, we've been drinking a lot.
We should go.
In reality, it helps the show to grow for mysterious iTunes reasons.
What are those algorithms?
Really, I don't know. They don't make them public.
Technology.
I'm getting to do it.
But please
This is okay.
leave us a review. You're all the best. I wish that I could make another Eminem joke right now, but I think I might kill us all. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.